dawn is slow and gray over the inland sea. A ship the size of a city block, steel, guns, and superstition, draws breath for the last time. Sailors coil lines with careful hands. Others write quick letters and fold them into pockets they won't live to empty. On the bridge, a captain stares into weather that promises nothing but distance. The name on the hull is Yamato, the largest battleship ever built. And this morning, she is leaving home for a mission designed by pride, fueled by hope, and wrecked by reality. The order sounds simple. Sail south toward Okinawa, attack the U.S. invasion fleet, then run yourself ashore and keep firing until the ammunition is gone. There will be no return. It is a plan born under the pressure of a single question from the Emperor. What is the Navy doing? A question that pushed Japan's remaining ships into the open, where carriers and radar already owned the sky. The operation has a poetic name, Tengo, Heaven Number 1. The sailors understand the other name people whisper, special attack. They know what that means. They go anyway. Why gamble everything? Because Okinawa is the doorway to Japan itself. American Marines are ashore. U.S. fast carriers roam nearby. Japanese leaders hope that one violent blow at the transports might slow the invasion and buy time. But look at the matchup. Yamato is a monster from a fading era. About 65,000 tons standard, over 70,000 tons full, wrapped in heavy armor, carrying 9 18.1-inch guns, the largest naval rifles ever used in war. She's been refitted with air and surface search radar and bristles with anti-aircraft weapons. On paper, she is terrifying. In practice, she is one ship under hostile skies. And skies win in 1945. People still repeat a dramatic line. She was only fueled for a one-way trip. It captures the mood, but it isn't quite right. The truth is harsher. Yamato took as much fuel as could be spared, and it still didn't matter. Fuel doesn't change radar, flight decks, and 1,000 aircraft waiting beyond the horizon. The crew knows this. Many of them say nothing. Some pray. A few ask to stay aboard even after being told they can leave. None do. They will sail with their ship. Now picture the task force forming up off Tokuyama on 6 April 1945. At the center, Yamato, flagship of Vice Admiral Seiichi Ito, commanded day-to-day by Captain Kōsaku Aruga. Ahead runs light cruiser Yahagi, Captain Tamichi Hara, a veteran who has already survived more fights than most men see. Around them, 8 destroyers in a protective ring, Esokaze, Hamakaze, Yukikaze, Asashimo, Kasumi, Hatsushimo, Fuyuzuki, Suzutsuki. This is the Surface Special Attack Unit, and everyone on these bridges understands what special attack means in 1945. Not everyone agrees with the plan. When the mission details are finally laid out to the captains, the meeting almost breaks. The officers don't fear dying. They fear wasting their men by charging into daylight without air cover. They argue for other options, night raids, coastal strikes, anything but this. The answer comes back. This is what the Emperor wants. The fleet will sail in support of mass kamikaze attacks. And orders will be obeyed. The room goes quiet. Back aboard, sailors drill damage control until their hands bleed. The ships load ammunition. Yamato takes 1,170 main battery shells. At 1600, the formation heads for the Bungo Channel and the open sea. Out beyond the headlands, another war is already awake, the invisible one. Allied codebreakers have been reading Japanese naval communications for days. The sortie is expected. The timing is guessed. Now all that remains is to nail down the track. 2 American submarines get the job, USS Threadfin and USS Hackleback. Threadfin sights the formation in the channel that evening and radios a clear contact report, so clear it's picked up on board Yamato. Later, Hackleback takes the shadowing role through the night, sending multiple reports as the Japanese change course along Kyushu's coast. Both U.S. admirals in the area, Spruance and Mitscher, already expect Tengo. Now, they have the plot line. They move the chessboard. While the force pushes south, the mood on deck tightens. A Sashimo falls behind with engine trouble. A bad omen. At dawn on 7th April, a few Japanese Zeke fighters take turns overhead, trying to offer some kind of combat air patrol. It isn't much. Intelligence had already warned that this thin umbrella would end around 10 psi. The Americans know it too. Up high, hidden in and out of clouds, two big PBM Mariner flying boats slide into position and begin to shadow. They're patient, persistent, and hard to swat. At Yor 823, a fighter from USS Essex finds the formation. The shadowing continues for hours. Every mile south feels heavier than the last. On Yamato, crewmen crowd the gun decks. The big 18-inch rifles are loaded not just with armor-piercing shells, but also with a strange weapon meant for airplanes. Sanshiki, the beehive shell, a giant shotgun packed with incendiary tubes and steel. Fired in salvos, it looks like a wall of fire. It also tends to do more spectacle than damage against fast, coordinated attacks. The gunners don't know that yet. They only know it's what they have. By mid-morning, the ocean around Okinawa begins to change. Orders ripple across the U.S. fleet. Deck crews sprint. Ordnance carts roll. Task Groups 58.1 and 58.3 start launching a massive mixed strike. Fighters to strafe and suppress, dive bombers to break the topside, torpedo planes to flood the belly. On the Japanese side, there's still a chance, a narrow one, that clouds and luck will keep the hammer away. But aboard Hancock, a late launch will get lost in the weather. The rest, 227 aircraft that actually make contact from a wave of 280 launched, are on the way. A second 110-plane wave is forming behind them. If you're standing near Yamato's bridge at this moment, you can feel the deck harden under your boots. Some men glance left and right, as if the sea itself might offer cover. It won't. And yet, for all the machine logic bearing down on them, the Japanese crews act with human clarity. Sailors set extra fire hoses in the passageways. Damage control teams stage pumps and shoring timbers near likely hit zones. Gunners run last-minute checks on fuses and directors. In the plotting rooms, men study turning circles and note the ship's heel in heavy rudder. If torpedoes come on the port side, and most U.S. torpedo pilots will aim there to force a capsize, what counter-flooding will hold the list? How long will it hold? How many compartments can they drown to save the ship above them? Nobody says the last part out loud. There's tension on the destroyers, too. Yukikaze, already famous for impossible luck, stands in the ring and watches the sky. Suzutsuki tracks bearings with calm routine that looks like courage. Hamikaze and Isokaze know they'll be first to charge into any torpedo run. On Yahagi, Captain Hara weighs a brutal choice. When the attack begins, do you break formation to pull aircraft away from the battleship? If it works, you save Yamato for a few minutes. If it fails, you die faster and alone. He likely understands the odds. He's called this mission like throwing an egg against a rock. He will still try to help. It starts with a quiet decision on American carrier decks. Launch everything that can fly. On the map, the Yamato group is a moving dot. In the sky, U.S. scouts are already circling, radioing bearings like a heartbeat. The plan is blunt and modern: find, fix, and finish, before Japan's biggest ship even sees Okinawa. And while the Japanese look up for help, the sky answers back with silence. That's the feeling to hold on to as we go in. One ship under many skies. Who wins that fight? We're about to see it minute by minute. By late morning, Task Groups 58.1 and 58.3 are on station northeast of Okinawa. Flight crews sprint. Ordnance carts roll. At Tenbakkoi time, those two task groups launch a 280-plane strike, 132 fighters, 50 dive bombers, 98 torpedo planes. Hancock's 53-plane section goes up late and never finds the target in the murk, which means 227 aircraft actually make contact out of the first wave launch. A second strike of about 110 aircraft from TG 58.4, Yorktown Intrepid Langley, forms behind them, time to hit as the first wave clears. The idea is pressure, no gaps for damage control to catch up. Japan knows the hammer is coming. At CO 823, a Hellcat from USS Essex sights the formation. Soon, 2 PBM Mariner flying boats begin shadowing from the clouds and keep discreet contact for roughly 5 hours. Up top, the Japanese have almost no air cover, about 14 Zeeks in short shifts through 10 Saktois, and the U.S. pilots learn they can loiter outside AA range with impunity. The trap is set. The sky holds the timer. At 12:37, everything breaks loose. Fighters streak in first, Hellcats and Corsairs to strafe and rocket the AA guns to force heads down. Helldivers dive next, and Avengers set up low on the horizons where torpedoes live. Yamato throws up Sanshiki beehive shells from her main guns, giant shotgun blasts that look like a wall of fire. But U.S. pilots quickly learn it's more spectacle than aim. The gunnery is visually directed and wildly inaccurate under coordinated attack. The Americans keep coming. 12:40, 2 $1,000 LBAP bombs slam home, one near number 3 turret forward, another explodes near the aft command station, knocking out an air search radar, the aft secondary director, and several 25mm mounts, and starting a stubborn fire. 12:45, a port side torpedo gets through. Damage control floods starboard to reduce the list to roughly 7 to grain, but the sea has started moving inside the ship. Light cruiser Yahagi makes a brave play. She turns away to draw attackers off Yamato. It works for a heartbeat, then ends at 12:46 when a torpedo punches the engine room, killing the entire team below and stopping the ship dead. Yukikaze races in to help, only to be pummeled and left a wreck. The screen starts to tear. Hamikaze is mauled and will go down. Hatsushimo, already dragging with engine trouble, is smothered and lost with all hands. By about 12:50, the first wave has done its opening damage and broken the ring. If the first wave shows chaos, the second shows method. U.S. Navy doctrine has evolved since Musashi off Leyte Gulf. Stack torpedoes on one side, overwhelm counterflooding, force a capsize. The Avengers will work the port approach deliberately. Meanwhile, Sanshiki keeps blazing from Yamato's main guns, but with directors wrecked and fire control crippled, the big bursts look terrifying and do little. Carrier air power in 1945 isn't just planes and bombs, it's process. 13:02, Yamato's remaining air search radar picks up new contacts, 50, inbound from Essex and Bataan. 13:22, an Essex Corsair drops a $1,000 BGP bomb into the port bow. 12 Helldivers rake the bridge area, 5 are damaged by AA, and still the attacks keep rhythm. By now, firing Sanshiki means detonations a second after launch, about 3,000 yards off the bow. Impressive fireworks that U.S. pilots simply fly through. 13:33, the second strike arrives. 110 aircraft from TG 58.4, Yorktown Intrepid, Langley. This time, everything concentrates on Yamato. 17 Avengers push in from the port side exactly as planned. 3 torpedoes hit in quick succession. Another series follows within minutes. Flooding leaps by Fasha 3,000 tons. With starboard already counterflooded earlier, the only way to keep her upright now is to drown starboard even more. Engine rooms, boiler rooms, sacrificing hundreds below to hold the deck for minutes above. Speed falls to 10 knots, which makes the ship an easier target and locks in the doom loop. Slower. More hits. Slower. Across the formation, you can see how air power dismantles a surface fight. Yahagi, drifting and burning, takes additional bombs and torpedoes. She will capsize at about 14:05. Suzutsuki has her bow blown off by a 500 lb bomb, yet somehow will back home under her own power after the battle. Courage is everywhere. Control is only in the sky. Pause the picture at 13:35. Yamato has taken multiple bombs and a string of port-side torpedoes. Directors are down. Steering is in trouble. The list is creeping. Speed is bleeding away. The U.S. doesn't ease up. A third sequence of attacks will keep stacking port hits, driving the list beyond what counter-flooding can match. In the next chapter, we'll watch the slow roll, the abandoned ship order, and the final magazine blast that marks the end of the world's largest battleship. Carry this question into Part 3. If you were on the bridge and could shift damage control for 5 minutes, where first, steering or forward magazine cooling? Pick wrong, and you die faster. Pick right, and maybe you buy the last 10 minutes that let more men live. Launch timing and composition. First wave 280 launched, 227 contact. Second wave 110. PBM Mariners shadowing, thin Japanese cap. First hits and timing. Deliberate port-side torpedo doctrine, flooding totals, speed loss. Yahagi's torpedo at 1246. Escorts fates, Hamikaze, Hatsushimo, Isokaze. Overall sequence of second/third waves. Sanshiki beehive purpose and limited effectiveness under massed coordinated air attack. Suzutsuki's bow blown off and her reverse home escape. If you want, I can tighten this to a 12-minute upload, highlight reel, or expand it with beat-by-beat radio call lines for added tension. Distant thunder rolls over an empty horizon. It isn't weather. It's the sound of a giant working against her own weight. Steel groaning, water slamming bulkheads, pumps losing the race. Look down from the clouds and you'll see it clearly. A wounded battleship carving a wide, helpless turn, leaning a little more with every minute. On the plotting table, the lines still look neat. On deck, the future is already tilted. The question hanging over everything is brutally simple. How long can a ship this big stay upright when the sea has climbed inside? By 1340, the rhythm of the battle has changed. The first rush of attack has passed. What remains is the slow, grinding part, the part where systems fail in a chain. Steering is the first headline problem. Yamato has taken hits that jam or flood the spaces that keep the rudder honest. She begins a broad, sluggish turn, not the tight, evasive maneuvers her captains practiced. With steering compromised, every new attack is easier to line up. The ship's metacentric height, the math of staying upright, shrinks with each ton of sea trapped inside. Below the waterline, the port-side torpedo pattern has done exactly what the attackers planned. Flooding spreads through compartments designed to be sealed, but now twisted or blown open. The crew answers with counter-flooding to starboard, a textbook move that buys minutes at the cost of drowning machinery spaces and men. It keeps the deck closer to level, but it steals speed and kills reserve buoyancy. The ship has to breathe to live. Counter-flooding tightens the lungs. Around 1350, you can feel the roll in your knees. The list creeps, is corrected, creeps again. In the plotting rooms, officers mark the numbers and say little. On the AA decks, gunners keep firing even as their gun tubs tilt, cartridges spilling and rolling like coins. The auxiliary steering options are either flooded or unresponsive. With every minute, the turn widens, and the ship's head falls off where the sea and wind push it. Then another picture intrudes. Yahagi. The light cruiser that tried to draw fire away is now stopped and dying. She has taken torpedoes and bombs. She has fought fires and floods as long as a human crew can. Somewhere near 1405, she capsizes, a neat word that hides the truth of men climbing the last dry metal as it turns into sky. Her death is a warning and a mirror. Yamato reads it. Somewhere between 14 Paz and 1405, there is a hard, human moment on Yamato's bridge. Reports say, "Abandon ship. It is said once. It is understood completely. Men who can move, move. Men who are trapped, stay at their posts. The order itself tells you the math is finished. But the battle doesn't stop to hear the words. Final torpedoes still come, again weighted to port, again doing what the doctrine demands. The list deepens past the point where counterflooding can match it. The decks that were merely slanted become walls. Loose gear turns into missiles. Even the main turrets, each a mountain of armor and machinery, begin to tear free as gravity wins and the ship inverts. They were built to sit on a deck, not hang from one. As Yamato rolls onto her port side and beyond, the forward magazines, the deep wells of propellant and shells, have been heating for too long. Cooling lines and flooding systems are broken. Fire has wandered where it shouldn't. At about 14:23 it happens. A violent internal detonation, likely the forward magazine, blows the ship apart. Witnesses talk about a column rising to the cloud base, about a mushroom of smoke seen for tens of miles, about shock waves rattling aircraft cockpits. For a few seconds, the largest battleship ever built is not a ship at all, just light and pressure. Then the sea closes. Silence doesn't follow. Destroyers still weave through explosions and falling debris to pull men from burning slicks. Yukikaze, the lucky ship, is there. Fuyuzuki and Hatsushimo are there. They take strafing runs, they risk torpedoes, they drop nets and lines, and they haul men with oil-blackened faces over the side. Some reach down and pull by the belt. Some lean until their own feet leave the deck, trusting the hands behind them. One escort, Suzutsuki, has a story that sounds like a legend. Her bow blown off, she will steam home in reverse, battered but alive. Heroes? Yes. Miracles? No. Just sailors doing the next right thing in the worst hour. The totals are cruel and lopsided. On the Japanese side, thousands die, most from Yamato, Yahagi, and the 4 destroyers that go down. On the American side, losses are real, aircraft and aircrew who never return, but small against the scale of the day. Numbers can numb us. Here's a way to feel them. Scatter a city's worth of fathers and sons across miles of ocean and ask 3 small ships to find the living before the cold does. Big battles collect myths, and Tengo has a few. One-way fuel. It made a powerful line in stories after the war, but the reality is different. Yamato took as much fuel as Japan could spare. It wasn't enough to give her a real chance, and it didn't need to be a suicide gas tank to make the mission one way. The lack that mattered was not fuel. It was air cover. How many hits? You'll read different counts, 11 to 13 torpedoes, 6 to 10 bombs, because accounts come from pilots in fast passes, from survivors working in smoke, and from post-war studies of a ship that exploded and sank in deep water. But all reliable sources agree on the pattern. Most torpedoes struck the port side, exactly as U.S. doctrine intended, and bombs smashed the superstructure, directors, and AA mounts. The fine print varies. The outcome does not. Beaching as a battery. Could Yamato have made Okinawa and fired as a fixed fortress? In a novel, maybe. In April 1945, with submarines shadowing, scouts overhead, and hundreds of carrier planes able to re-attack all day, a slow, visible ship had almost no path to that beach. The plan itself shows the mood in Tokyo, symbol over survival. As for what failed first, the answer is not one thing. It was a sequence. Steering hurt, port-side flooding stacks, counter-flooding reduces stability and speed. More accurate attacks land. List outpaces the ability to correct. Inversion, magazine detonation. No single breach kills a giant like Yamato. The system does. Operation Tengo was bravery harnessed to a broken idea. Battleships once ruled by armor and gun range. In 1945, the sky decides. The American carriers didn't just bring more planes, they brought process, find, shadow, mass, strike, restrike, until even a super ship becomes a slow, tilting target. What does Yamato mean today? For some, pride in craftsmanship and courage taken to their edge. For others, a warning about doctrine that outlives its world. You don't have to choose. Both can be true. Men fought hard on every deck here, Japanese and American, and the sea took its price from all of them. Final question for you. On April 7, 1945, what single decision changed the outcome most, Japanese or American? Was it the choice to sail at all? The U.S. choice to stack torpedoes to port? The order to shadow rather than attack early with submarines? Tell me your pick, and why. Your answer is where this story lives on.